back to Museum Diaries. I'm here with Veronica. It is Thursday actually, April 21st, 2022. And we're going to talk about a few things and let you guys know what's going on. Now, Veronica, being knowledgeable and having had contact with Kenneth Bianchi, the Hillside Strangler, was approached by NBC for a documentary that will be released in a few months called The Devil in Disguise about Kenneth Bianchi. And she was asked if she would participate and be interviewed for this documentary. She agreed. And I ended up joining her on this interview as well. So we're going to keep you guys posted. Veronica, do you want to talk a little bit about that documentary that you did an interview for? How was it?
Well, I thought it was fine. I thought that that they balanced everything. The questions that they asked were important. They allowed me to tell my parts that I felt, comfortable talking about. And they had open minds, which I think is extremely important when you're interviewed, to have somebody that's reciprocating, and not just reciprocating, but someone that's not there to just exploit, but there to hear truth, that want to know the real story.
Yeah, I thought it was really good too, and I'm excited to see it. It'll be on NBC Peacock. We're going to share the information with you once we find out the link and how to watch the video. We're going to share that with you guys in a future episode.
And then we also have Joe Rodata is setting us up with...
Joseph Rodata, the author of The Watergate, he also has a podcast, and Veronica did some podcasts with him last year, and those are going to be aired when the documentary gets released. And he's also proposed an idea of a podcast where women get to come to the table, to the platform, and discuss issues with associations with criminals and relationships. And Veronica recently met with Lynn Fahey, who's got a lot of experience with the whole jury selection process,
criminal justice
behavior, the
she's
criminal
a brilliant,
justice
brilliant
system.
woman, doctor.
Yeah, so Veronica's going to be doing a podcast with Joe Rodata and Lynn Fahey.
And we'll be able to update you more as the things are starting to manifest. But we're in pre-production now, and we should be in production probably in a few months here.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that, and we're going to definitely share that with you guys once we get it all going. Now, today, Veronica is going to read some more Sister Me and some of her writings she hasn't shared with us in quite some time, so we're welcoming her back today so she can share more of her Sister Me, because she's written so much. I mean, she's got this stack right here. She's got another stack over here.
And another stack and another stack. I've got quite a bit.
She's got quite a bit of manuscripts.
Yes. So I would like to share them. And so here's the time to do it, I guess.
Okay.
So I will start off with, now some of you may be familiar with my past. Those of you that aren't, this will introduce you. I was kidnapped at the age of 10. I heard her cries. She's begging for help. I'm struggling hard to break free myself. I'll rescue you too as soon as I can. Girls are not slaves to a man. Weeping and weeping, wounds are seeping. So much damage amidst this carnage. I'm almost free, then I'll come to you. I just must escape these cuffs just like you. I heard her cries, but I was alone. The room just echoed my piteous moan. Here come the footsteps, echoing too. He draws his knife and says, I love you. This is my story. These are my truths. I was kidnapped and raped too. Over and over, the strangers came to take my body and make my shame. One day I'll get free, no matter the cost. I'll flee out the first window and try to get lost. Anywhere is better than this hellhole. I'm still alive in the truth I know. Pedophiles, all of them in their limousines, robbing my virtue and all that means something to me. Finally, after 2 years and 4 months, at last a window to jump out. The vomit comes out with all their sperm. I fight and I learn. Bad men are every place you can name. They molest, and to them it's just a game. They fuck you and choke you and enjoy it all. I gag, then vomit before I fall. Fall out of the window, not knowing where. You see, I was kidnapped, dragged, and got lost. I just don't know where. As I break through a screen, it's the first window open I've seen. I take my chances and rush through that screen. Down and down and down I go, falling to pavement. I just don't know. I took the chance. I was outside. I ran and I ran, finding someplace to hide. Why do men kidnap, rape, and destroy? I'm a child, not a stranger's toy. Now it's been decades, but I'll never forget. Dion and Yon, pedophiles, all of them in their limousines, robbing my virtue and all that means. Finally, after 2 years and 4 months, at last a window to jump.
That was a very traumatic period in your life. Did you experience that as a child?
Yeah, and it's interesting because those memories don't recede and they don't go away. So they're really there whenever you have sex. And it's just horrendous, when you've been molested like that and hurt.
And I thought that was valiant
really
that you jumped out of a 2-story window to escape finally.
I had to. I didn't
finally,
even know if it was
after
5
like
stories.
2.5 years.
Yeah, I had no idea how far down it was. So if it had been 5 stories, it would have been 5. It was 2, thank God. And I made it out without breaking my legs or anything.
And you never saw them again?
Never saw them again. Thank God.
Yeah. I hope they got their karma back in life.
I prayed that
I hope they ended up in prison.
I really hope they did, because they were really wrong people. They were really perverted. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that one.
You're welcome. Okay, so this is back to my prison writings. I feel nauseous. No, it's not the multivitamin I took for my morning workout either. It's the damn memories. Horrible. Terrible. Sickening and painful. This morning I was 10 again. Naked, crying, holding a sheet against my wet, sticky body after the first 24 hours since my kidnapping. I can see my innocent nakedness between my thighs like a tender peach cruelly torn apart. My flesh there is so perfect in its pristine childness, hairless and devoid of any womanly sexuality. And yet it is this, now purple, blue, bruised, tiny mound that has been coveted and beaten apart by this man. My right hand is motioning him to stay away. My body is trembling as I'm begging and wailing for him to leave me alone. The mattress I'm standing on is laying in the corner of his one-room apartment. The floors are stained with neglect, and the wood boards are pockmarked like the cheeks on his face. His skin is shimmering in its body oils, catching the sun rays, which point at his crimes like fingers of accusation. And I know that no child should ever have to see this level of sin. His naked man form is deep, dark brown, with black creases and black wiry hairs. I can choke and vomit on him. His smell is so vile, like week old underarm sweat and greasy hair oil in a hot iron pan frying soured onions. I want to open the window behind him. I want to jump out, but he is selfish with it now, greedy to claim each breeze through this thin, once white, now gray curtain. His shoulders are massive and broad, his neck fat and short, his eyes half mad and half dead. And when he beats me, when he rapes me, he says things I still can't hear. I only know it has something to do with my white skin. Interior of cell. Now we're back in prison. Double bunk. Delane is lying on the bed. I am in a chair at the table. I say, I'm getting tired. It's getting so damn hard. I almost want to give up. No, I do want to give up. I pushed myself so hard year after year. I feel like maybe it would just be best if I cut everyone outside of prison out of my life. You see, it hurts. It hurts to reach out and stay healthy. I am so tired. You know, it's been years that I've been writing about this experience. I've thousands of papers, boxes full of these reflections, and I keep trying to give the free world an idea of what this imprisonment is about. No, not just an idea, but I want to help them to feel it. But how can I do that? How can you give another person the experience of watching lives torn apart? Mothers losing their own children, women breaking down, then putting themselves back together again, only rebuilding their shattered egos with despair and a loss of self-esteem. I can't even express what I mean. I know I want to give up, but I can't. I can't stop. I have to somehow make them know that we are valuable human beings that can grow, that can be worthwhile members of society, just like anybody else, because we are anybody else. That's the madness of it. It's like we're denied ourselves, but we are society. Point Dexter gave Reagan up today on the news about the arms trade-off for the hostages. Some Americans want him impeached. If we had done it, well, we'd be facing the death penalty. My cellmate says, it'll probably blow over. He only got another year and a half in office. Right, I say. But you know what my point is? No, she says. My point is this, that everyone makes choices. Sometimes our choices aren't so good, and those choices don't make us worthless. So why do we have prisons? And why do they treat us as we are ultimately worthless so much of the time? Delane, we're lucky. I'm lucky. I'm intelligent and strong. But even though I'm ready, I can break. I'm near that edge. If it's taken me 7 years before I throw the towel in and surrender, then think how quickly others do and have. Their corpses moved. Coroner's office, claiming their death to my ears. And I see another body leave the cell block. What do you mean break, Veronica? Oh, not give a damn, I guess. Just resign that I'm a number and will never amount to shit. So just be the derelict society has made me labeled as. After all, doing volunteer work, academic study, prison activism, all of that. To me, breaking would be giving up my humanism. Live like a dog, eat like a dog, existence. Ver, you can't do that. That's not you. The thing of it is, Delane, is that I am dealing with the loss of hope. I'm feeling a sense of hopelessness, where dreams die. There's no room for trust, love, or giving of oneself. It's truly reprobate and criminal. I feel I'm tempted to become a true criminal, an enemy of the people on the serious side. I've never been this before. I was insane behind drugs, not reality, when I committed my crime. Delane rises and sits in a corner chair, pulls curtain back and looks out the yard at the general population walking by. Ver, the air smells fresh. I can almost smell the ocean. My dad used to take us kids to the ocean. Your dad was a good man, Delane. Yes, he was. Thank God. He didn't live to see me come here. A knock is heard at the door. Ver rises. Tokva is at the window. Ver puts the doorstop under the door. Tokva. Hi, Ver, what's going on?
You met so many women in prison.
Oh, wonderful.
And you have stories about them.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Great people.
All right, well, share another story.
All right.
Yeah, we have time for another story.
This is Sister Me, page 169, chapter 13. So many memories. When Wilson said, "Until the day you die, Compton," well, it was the cruelest thing anyone had ever said to me, and to this day I've held a secret terror of his threat being realized. He really could have done it. Nothing in his character or the way the rules here have been enforced, subverted, would have prevented it. My response then was to curb my work as an activist and have some of my articles smuggled out under alias names. I withdrew from his focus, but it didn't last long. I was phased out of the isolation block after 3 consecutive winters and moved into the maximum security wing, but only after signing a contract. Even though I'd never been charged for an offense, when I was put in the blackout box for those 6 months, and blackout box, it's literally a concrete box that is, they've blacked out the window area, they put a board so you have no sunlight. They have your door sealed at the bottom so there's no light coming under the door. Your window has a closure on it from the outside, a curtain that drops all the light. They turn the water off and on. So although you have a toilet bowl and you have a sink, you cannot drink that water. You have to wait for them to come in and say, you have to bang on the door and say, "Can I have some water?" And then they can decide whether or not they're going to turn on your water switch. Or if you need toilet paper. "I have to go to the bathroom. Can I have some toilet paper, please?" And then they'll count 1, 2, 3 squares for urine, 5 for feces. Not enough. And then you have to ask them, "Would you please flush my toilet?" And then they'll flush the toilet, perhaps, or not. Sometimes the toilet backs up on you, so the neighbor's feces and urine flies out of your toilet bowl all over your cell in a shower, which causes boils on your skin, and you have no antiseptics, so you literally are living with all of this bacteria. And I've got scars all over my body to prove it. I never ever had acne, never ever had boils on my body, but I sure got them when I was in isolation. It reminded me of the story of Job in the Bible. And he talks about, the boils on his body and how dilapidated he became. And I did too. I served more time than any person in the history of Washington State at that time. And it was a nightmare, and it was horrendous, and it was cruel, and it was wrong. It was complete isolation from humanity. I had no books to read, no Bible, no writing pens, nothing. Nothing. I had one slip that my mother had sent me when I was in general population. It started to rot on my body because after months of wearing one garment at the same time over and over and over and washing it by hand in a sink, you can't really get it clean because the soap that they give you is the cheapest Castile soap that exists, and it makes your clothes oily. Like it never cleans them. So my black silk slip started to rot off my body, and I would have literally rotted material on my body, and I would be forced to be handcuffed and walked in public with all the general population inmates and guards there behind glass, and they're staring at me. They can see my panties, they can see everything because the holes are so big that I literally am almost naked. And that was part of the humiliation. Why? Why? Why would you do that to a human being? How bad was I? Well, let me think. I helped the minorities, the black women, the Indian women, some white women, Mexican women. I helped anybody and everybody that needed it. I fought against the rapes that the guards were doing in the isolation unit where they had the mentally
They took advantage of
damaged women, yes. And no one would believe them that they were being raped by this particular guard. And I didn't just write the superintendent. I wrote the secretary of the Department of Corrections in Olympia, Washington, but I didn't stop there. I wrote letters to the Seattle Times and to the Herald Examiner, and of course to the governor's office, and to the ACLU and the NAACP. And to get those letters out, I had to have them smuggled. And the only way I could do that was to do it through staff. So I did have some staff, mostly women, that were teachers, that would come in and give education to those that were in isolation. And although I wasn't allowed that, they would still come to my window and ask how I was doing. And they would also have, when the teachers were gone, without any notice to you at all, you're in a room that is totally stripped, okay? You're basically stripped. They give me a uniform, and it's a man's uniform that's probably 6 sizes too large for me, so it's so bulky. But here's the catch. No bra, right? My panties are rotting. You know, I wash them by hand, but they're not in good shape. When I have to go to the bathroom, I have to unzip my uniform. So now my breasts are exposed, my entire body is exposed, and the uniform is around my ankles, and I am urinating. And they lift up the flap, and strangers come, public people, anyone is allowed to lift up my flap and look in and see me. It doesn't matter that I'm naked and sitting on the toilet doing my private business. That was part of their treatment of me. It was the point of making you feel as though you were an animal in a cage. And there was one woman, Yvonne Riggins, who had been in isolation also. And she and a couple of other people would make animal sounds when they had these public visitors come. So they'd be going, bah, 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 ah, 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 ooh, 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 pretending like they were animals, because it was so demeaning and so blackening to the soul.
Yeah.
And at every opportunity I had, when the public would come by, I would shout out the door, "What you see is not real. It's a lot worse. Please, please contact the press. Let them know that these women are being kept from soap, from washing, from calls," and whatever the issues were. I'm screaming it, which of course cost me. So what does it cost me? It cost me my showers. It cost me the inability to buy anything on commissary. It was just horrendous, just freaking horrendous. The conditions are beyond what you could imagine. You know, I can give you some of the details, but you can't comprehend it. You really can't comprehend it. What it's like, the cruelties, the unsanitary conditions, the stench of fear that permeated the uniforms, that permeated the halls. It was a smell of fear that you couldn't escape. And I'll never forget that smell. So I can talk about these things, and for a moment your mind can imagine some of the peculiarities and absurdities and nightmarish qualities. But you really have to live through it, day after day, month after month, year after year, after decade after decade, which I did. So,
Too much.
Any
Too much
questions?
time. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to picture the people coming in, like you said, public, and peeking into your door. Like there was a flap.
There was a door flap, yeah.
And was it the guards that would peek
No,
in?
it was the
or?
public. They let the public.
Really?
So these are, anyone, you could sign up to go on a tour of a prison.
Oh, I see.
And then they
tour.
escort you to these different areas where the inmates live. And then they tell you, when you're in the ad seg area, the isolation block, oh yeah, go ahead and just lift them up and you can look in and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if you look at my drawings, I have them cataloged, and I actually show this in my drawings.
Yeah, she has a whole prison collection of paintings that she did while she was in prison. And one of my favorite is Jane Doe.
Jane Doe is a favorite because Jane Doe represents me, but anyone, you know. And in her hand, she's all chained up, and in her hands she has a writ, and it's a writ against the state. So she's filing charges about the crimes that are going on in an institution, which is what I did with Nina Jordan and some other inmates. Nina was amazing. She was brilliant, and I love her. She was very inspirational, and she didn't do as much time as me, but she was a brilliant intellect and an activist as well. So it was the first person I had met in all those years that actually could pick up a torch with me and fight, you know, and she was great that way.
So what was it like writing to these organizations like the NAACP, Amnesty International,
Yes.
I think was one of them too?
Yes.
Did they ever respond? Did you ever
Yes,
hear back from anybody?
Yes, I did. And I was made a member of the National Lawyers Guild by the New York Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me a questionnaire of questions about legal briefs that I'm writing, and, you know,
Right,
different
because
points
you were
of
a
the
jailhouse
law.
lawyer.
Right, so I had to answer those accurately, which I did. And I fought things that other people just weren't even touching.
Yeah.
There was one case, and I appealed this. It was a sister, a black woman, who made a comment, and this comment was used against her in her trial for murder. And the comment, she didn't commit the murder. She was with someone who had a gun, and they had ripped off her property. She was going with this friend to retrieve her stolen property. So they got into the room, they got into the apartment, they had the gun on them, and she said, "I want my stuff back." And then there was a tussle, and in that tussle, the gun accidentally went off. Meanwhile, she's given a murder sentence. Can you imagine? That is so wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong, so wrong. We should have the right to retrieve our own property, for God's sakes, you know? But at any rate, they sent her to prison. So a comment that she had made, and I don't want to misquote, but it was a comment that was a slang term, like, let's get that bitch. Something simple. Let's get that bitch. Now you can twist that. Now back in that era, during the early 80s, and your jury is all white men that are in their 50s and 60s, and they call